I like to say overnight success, 12 years in the making, because
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Skiff Wanderer podcast. Today I am joined by Mac Elliott.
Hey, y'all.
Or as your family calls you, Michaela.
Yes.
But don't call her that or she will be confused. Mac and I, actually, for you guys listening, I'm going to set kind of where we're at right now. So we just got off the water. We met in some neutral ground here on the Texas coast, and we are trying an outdoor podcast. So far it sounds like I'm not picking up a lot of wind noise in my headphones, so I'm hoping that when I check the recording, it'll be good for you guys. But if you hear seagulls or motors or boat wakes, it's because we're outside.
It hopefully will sound relaxing.
Yeah, hopefully. Mm-hmm. Mac was kind enough to bring her Sprinter van.
Not my Sprinter van.
I think, maybe if you just start calling it your Sprinter van, then you just, that's what's going to happen. It'll just become yours.
Yeah.
I would say even go so far as just start making modifications to make it your mobile workstation.
Yeah, just ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah. Exactly. So anyways, Mac, got a little into the weeds right off the start. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and then a little bit about, how you got into the outdoors and photography.
Absolutely. I am from Houston and born and raised in Houston, but I spent most of my weekends down in Rockport. I had like the quintessential Texas. Sorry, I have to hold it closer.
It's not a podcast till someone tells someone to put the mic closer to their face.
Yeah. I had the quintessential Texas childhood. Did the fishing trips on the weekend, duck hunting, really flounder gigging. I really was drawn to the water. I kind of strayed away from it when I was in high school. Like, I didn't really have the same connection with it. And so I was looking for a way to get back on the water that didn't involve like heavy fishing.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. So I went to college for journalism. Realized I hated reading newspapers.
Are those still a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So, I was like, that's not really the path for me. I got a internship doing media production and photography for a commercial gap year program. So that kind of led me down the path of pursuing commercial media production. And before then, I didn't really know that you could make a job out of taking pictures, making videos. I'd seen people do it, but that was kind of like a goal that was way far out in the distance.
Yeah. For sure. No, I've only like in the last few years realized like, oh, you can do this stuff and make a living at it. I definitely wish I had known earlier, but you definitely, I think you're doing some great stuff. How did so I think you talked a little bit, but how when did you start taking photos?
Yeah. I got my first camera when I was 12, and it really wasn't mine. My dad bought it for my mom.
Sprinter van.
Yeah. My dad bought like a little Canon Rebel for my mom, and I was playing around with it, became obsessed with it. I was playing sports at the time, and it went from me being like the sporty, athletic kid to photography 24/7. So I like to say that I've been doing photography for 12 years now, but most of that was really cringy. You can't find it on Instagram, but I've been posting on Instagram since I was like 12 years old.
It's not all the way in the back?
No, I deleted it, and then like a week later, Instagram came out with the archive option. Oh. Yeah. But I have some screenshots. I can show them to you later. It's a journey.
Yeah. No, I definitely, when I started putting a lot of work into my personal Instagram, I had they're still on there. There's definitely some cringe photos, and that was kind of, I think, the same thing that you did, where it was like, you know what, I want people one day to look at my photos now, and instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get there, like I want them to be able to look and see, like, look, this was years in the making. This wasn't like, oh, I picked up a camera yesterday, went out, and this is what I shot.
Absolutely. I like to say overnight success, 12 years in the making, because it feels like that. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting this attention on social media for pictures of fish, but I mean, I've been working at it for a while.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
The fish thing was kind of on accident, and a lot of me getting into fishing again and like rediscovering my passion for the Texas coast came with the COVID like shutdown.
Yeah.
So I mean, hard times, hard couple of years, but I'm finding the like grace in it all.
Yeah. Did you start with outdoor photography?
Yes. I thought when I was a kid that I wanted to be like a fashion photographer. So I took like a hard turn after that one. But I was really getting into travel photography. And it still captures my heart. Like, I jump at any opportunity to get on helicopters or whatever, and take really fun travel content. But it wasn't that I wasn't good at it, but there wasn't much special about what I was shooting that other people couldn't necessarily do.
Yeah.
So I was at like a standstill with my social media presence. I was at a standstill with what I was able to do now that the world shut down, that I needed to get creative. But I went from fashion photography to fish photography.
Did you ever do any professional fashion shoots?
Oh no, this was like
early days.
Like embarrassing. Like, you throwing flour at my friends and then being like, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
One of the things, like, as I've gotten more into photography, that I've definitely realized, especially like if you want to get into outdoor photography, is having a well-rounded background in multiple types of photography. Because if you're shooting outdoor photos, I mean, one day you're working with an apparel brand, the next day you're working with a product, the next day you're on a trip, where you're traveling, and you just have to be able to kind of be dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so much of it, as well as like marketing, centered around marketing. I took some classes in marketing, and I feel like me having the experience producing videos and photos to sell a gap year program to students or to sell certain experiences, like, I try to take that into even just taking pictures of people fishing, like creating the entire experience.
Yeah, no, it's definitely what people want to see. Is, I mean, definitely, like, as I've delved more and more in trying to make the YouTube videos that I do better, it's, all right, cool. Like when I started, it was like, all right, we got a video of catching a fish, and it's like, well, that doesn't tell, how the morning you were driving down the road and realized your casting platform wasn't bolted down and it was sitting in the bed of the truck, and then
when did that happen?
That definitely didn't happen this morning. That's the problem when I got ADD like crazy, and I'll be in the middle of washing the boat and be like, oh, let me go make dinner, and forget that I forgot to put stuff away.
That's really bad ADD right there.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat, don't worry.
Yeah. All right, so when how long ago did you do like your first professional shoot or go full time? How about that? When did you start going full time?
Yeah. Well, I graduated from college December of 2020. So I started my business, I'm going to say like last March or April.
Right in the heat of COVID.
Yeah, we're coming up on a year. And it's been, you know, I've heard like, oh, your first year of business, it's the hardest. You're going to feel like you're crazy. And it's true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's true.
It has taught me so many life lessons. But I figured, like, if I can find even a little bit of success and community in pandemic times, like, I'm really looking forward to the future.
Yeah. No, and I mean, it sounds like you've been doing some, like, it sounds like in a year you've made some pretty big leaps and bounds. What kind of tips would you offer, like, somebody that was looking at getting into that space, into outdoor photography?
Yeah. Well, I think when I think of the journey that I've had this past year, I've really, really tried to build community, not only with people on social media, but also networking and, like, getting to know influential people in the industry. And a lot of that growth came from just saying yes to opportunities, even if it didn't pay like I was hoping it would. Because I think you need to, I try to tell myself, like, work the job, even if it's a $0 job or a $40 job, as if it were a $4,000 job. And I think that makes the difference, because if you care that much about your art, or like helping a brand out while you're growing, like, it just shows other people where you're willing to take your work.
Yeah, and I think it also definitely helps kind of build a base of credibility. And because a lot of times brands will, you know, they might reach out to somebody you've worked with in the past just to get a feel for how you are. So if you approach every single job like it's that $4,000 job, that's the reputation you're going to build. And yeah, I mean, I definitely, I've done a couple shoots where I definitely didn't get paid what I should have, and I don't know. You went through that too, right?
Oh, I think every photographer does. Yeah, but you learn so much, and I try to remind myself when I'm doing a new kind of shoot, or I'm feeling a little intimidated by the size of a company, like, this is all a learning experience. I'm a year into learning about this business, and I'm very much fresh meat, like, in this industry. Like, I really don't know much.
Yeah.
But I think being willing to learn from others, to go above and beyond just trying to get your foot in the door. Like, if you really want to be in the industry and meeting people and advancing, like, you can make it happen.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think I'm dying. No, I was gonna say, I think that also you see, like, actually, no, I lost it.
Yeah, well, that being said, I also don't get to sleep that much. No. I am working constantly, but it's like, you know, a bad day on the water is better than a great day at your desk.
Yeah, I tell you, like, definitely as you're learning, one of the things I've gotten to with editing photos especially is, like, as you learn, as you progress, like, you find shortcuts, you find things you like, you get to where you can pretty much, like, look at a photo and, you know, all right, well, this needs a few things, or you've already saved some presets that you can easily, like, put those on and you're like, just change a couple things, good to go. So I mean, definitely, like, if you're getting started, like, those first few years, if you're trying to learn photos and editing, like, those years are tough because you are learning and it's a new skill set and it takes time. But I can tell you, like, this probably will, I don't know how this will sound. I can take 100 photos and edit them in probably an hour.
Yeah. Do you like to use the sync setting? Have you discovered that?
No.
Okay. I hadn't either. Like, I hadn't known about this until last year, maybe.
Yeah.
And I was just playing around on Lightroom, and there's if you select 10 photos, the first photo is what is going to sync the settings. So it's like you're mass copying and paste, but there's a giant button at the bottom of the screen that says sync.
Here I've been just copy and paste into each photo individually.
I know. So everybody go and hit that sync button.
I think honestly that's the other thing, tip wise, is, when you're networking, don't just try to network with companies, try to network with other photographers or other filmmakers, because I think you can only learn so much from YouTube tutorials, which that's where I learned most of my stuff, but I've just learned something new right now, and just hanging out with other photographers, filmmakers, they everyone does stuff different, and it definitely, as you hang out with them and you talk to them, you become friends with them, you start picking up on some of the little tricks and stuff that they do, and then you can find ways to incorporate that into your own work.
Yeah, and when it comes to editing, I do have a very distinct editing style. I've heard people say it's very high key.
It is,
but
but I think it's great though.
Love the color, love the contrast, drama. But honestly, I'm just using built-in Lightroom presets. Don't tell anybody.
Okay, no one. We'll just beep that out, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I used to make my own presets, but I've almost simplified my editing process. And it still ends up looking like it would 2 years ago. But I found this really nice little, start with a really chill base preset and then go crazy with your filters and your little, I love to do a radial filter where it's low clarity, higher texture. That's where it's at.
Yeah, no, I know that one.
Yeah, I don't know if other photographers are shh.
Stop saying, yeah.
Yeah, but I try to be. Oh, are we coming up?
Yeah, you can finish.
Oh. I try to be pretty transparent with my followers on Instagram and community about just helping everybody out and helping everyone grow and learn, because I didn't have that getting started. So
I wanted to ask you, because you do have a very unique style with your photo edits. How long have you been working with that style? Because I know that's one of the things I think everybody hears is, be creative, find your own style. And I don't think people realize that doesn't come from editing 10 photos. So what was that process to get to where you're at with your style?
Yeah, I've taken one photography class. I took it my senior year of high school, and that was 2015. So I learned Lightroom then. What?
I didn't have the mic anywhere near my face.
So I learned Lightroom in 2015. And I was pretty much editing in a very overblown style of the one that I have now. I was editing in 2016, 2017 in that same style. So I don't know. I feel like I've refined it. I've made it both artistic and commercial, because I think you can definitely overdo it. And I used to go crazy.
Full saturation.
Yes. All the way up to 100.
How much, when you're on Instagram, how much, following wise, how many of them, would you say are people that influence you? And does that, when you see photos from other photographers, is that a big influence on developing, have you ever looked through a series of photos and just been let me try to edit like this?
I think when I was the past 5 months, I've really tried to tone back my editing style, make it a little more natural and organic. And I think that it's an influence of all of these amazing fishing photographers that I follow. And I used to get kind of crazy about it though, because you're scrolling on Instagram and you're seeing like this amazing work, and you're like, you have to set a limit because you start getting a little bit in your head, constantly scrolling on Instagram. But I think when that bothered me, it was more like when I was still developing my style. So I think now that I have a more secure sense of my artistic taste and the direction I want my photos to go, it doesn't, like, I don't find myself looking at people's photos and being like, oh, I should copy that. Or like, oh, I want to try that. Or I think it's more of a inspiration based situation. Yeah.
So the next thing I want to ask you about is how do you get all that underwater stuff? Like, you know, like I've seen plenty of guys out there like dabble in it enough to, you know, they'll have the occasional awesome split shot or underwater shot or just a redfish moving through the water, but like I think you've mastered it. like every time I see like one of your photos going like, dang, I don't like, does she just spend hours just
I do spend hours. Just most of my shots are taken like at the water level, because I love using telephoto lenses, and I have like underwater housing. I use the Aquatech reflex housing with the dome, but it shoots so wide that you're only able to get really specific shots, and I think I've only used it like less than 5 times.
Oh, really?
Because I'll take it doesn't get used, or I take it all the way to like, I traveled to South Carolina and like lugged it up there. Never used it.
Do you have a second camera body?
Yeah, so I use the R5, Canon R5, which is my new camera body, and my 5D Mark IV gets neglected now. Yeah, but I had the 5D since 2015, and shutter life is a real thing because it just didn't turn on. Yeah. Yeah, but the mirrorless camera changed my life.
Oh, yeah.
The continuous shutter is like...
It's amazing.
Bizarre.
No, I thought it was... I honestly like thought it was kind of weird that Sony came out with it and Nikon and Canon like kept dragging their heels on releasing a mirrorless. Yeah,
and I heard so many mixed reviews about the Canon mirrorless, like they overheat, which they do. I have run into that.
That's good in the summertime.
Yeah. Have run into that a little bit, but I'm normally just taking photos. Like I don't I'm not really taking videos, and the only overheating issues I've had are on video or super slow motion, you know. But I shoot with the R5 all the time. That was the only one I brought today, and use the adapter so I fit all my DSLR lenses on it, and it works perfectly.
And what's your go-to lens right now? Is that a trade secret?
No. You know, I used to get so intimidated by like millimeters. Like, you know how everyone's like, oh, I really love a 35 millimeter lens, and I could never remember any of my lenses. Now I do. So I love the 70 to 200 f2.8, because I think like if you're already investing that money buying a really amazing lens, you might as well just go for the shallow,
for sure,
super shallow depth of field. But that's what I am shooting most of the fish action shots on. Really? And I like to, they have to be still relatively close for you to get a good shot. You can try like zooming in, which is where the mirrorless cameras like come and help.
Yep.
They have far higher megapixel capabilities. But yeah, most of my artistic shots are with the 70 to 200. I love the 35 millimeter because it just feels really...
Just a prime.
like natural and glowy, and I like it. Yeah, and then the 16 to 35. Didn't think I would like the super wide angle, but it makes Skiffs look huge.
So you don't even rock a 24 to 70?
Not anymore.
Really?
I have it, but normally I won't even bring it with me.
That's because like most of the guys I know, like if you ask them like if you can only have one lens, 24 to 70.
Yeah, I used to be like when I was traveling and making content, that was the lens that I used for absolutely everything. But I really love the artistic shots, and for that I either go really wide or I go super zoomed in.
No, that makes sense because I mean a 24 to 70, like if you're looking at lenses 24 to 70, it's a fantastic all-purpose lens. You're going to be able to get, good landscape shots out of it. You're going to be able to get good tight shots out of it. But those limits of 24 is probably like when you're looking at trying to shoot like wide open landscapes, like that's probably about the limit for, as wide as you want to get. Is that, or as close, as tight as you want to get. And then like when you're shooting 70, same thing, like it kind of limits on, like you can zoom, but you still got to be pretty close to whatever you're trying to shoot. It's
a really great like all-purpose lens. You can take really amazing landscape photos, and
there's videos with a 24 to 7.
Oh my gosh! Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say like if like because we talked about it a little bit today on the Skiff. What would you say like if someone hits you up and was like, "Hey, I want to get into photography," like what should I start with?
That's a great question. I feel like I'm constantly getting those messages.
Yeah.
And I'm like so excited to answer them when people message me on Instagram, because we are camera nerds at heart. Like we just love talking about cameras.
Yeah, for everyone that was hoping for a lot of fly fishing, sorry.
Yeah, go.
Well, there'll be some more, I promise.
Refer to my video of me casting, and you'll be like, oh, that's why she didn't talk about fly fishing.
It's not over yet. We might talk about it.
Yes. I would say anyone who wants to get into, like, I would say even fish photography. I get messaged a lot about that. People ask me, like, where do you get the confidence to bring your camera out on the water? And I like to tell them, like, have a backup plan, have a good dry bag. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Half the time I don't travel with a Pelican case.
Yeah.
But I love keeping a trash bag, like a giant trash bag in my backpack. I have like one little dry bag in case,
Yeah. No,
Armageddon happens. I say if you don't want to trash the camera, just know that you probably won't get the shot. But there has to be there's a risk included with the reward.
Yeah, of course.
And if that's not worth getting the shot, like if you're not willing to trash your camera to get the shot, then, that's okay.
No, I definitely, I can tell you right now, like some of my really low level, I've gotten a really good habit of like, if I'm going to shoot low to the water, I'll actually hold the camera where my hand's underneath it. And that way I know, like, all right, this is as close as you need to get because your fingers are getting wet.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I haven't technically trashed a camera yet. I got caught in a rainstorm once in Thailand, but I just put a bunch of rice in the battery compartment and it was fine.
That's all it took.
5 days later. Yeah. But I haven't run into many problems. I just kind of take on the risk when I'm out there.
Yeah.
I think a week or two after getting the new mirrorless camera, I had bought a 600 millimeter f11 lens to go with it. And it was a pretty good deal for what it is.
Yeah.
It's not the best lens ever, but if you're wanting to get like really amazing tail shots in perfect conditions, like it does the job.
Yeah.
But I was walking around on the flats for 3 hours, just like getting as close to the water as possible to get on that same like level of field as the fish were. And I don't know, for me that was worth it.
Oh yeah. No, I think if anybody's been following me, you probably have seen the video of my buddy Alex Blackwell sitting cross-legged so he can prop his elbows on his knees, and he's sitting cross-legged on the bottom. He's got water up to his chest. He's got both of his arms on his knees to steady a 400 millimeter lens, and the video that he got from that is so amazing. And I mean, that's what it takes a lot of times, is just,
Mm-hmm.
if you want that angle, you got.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think another thing that helps is I think if you want to get into the fishing photography, from early on, you kind of have to decide whether you want to fish or whether you want to take the picture, which is heartbreaking. Like, I work with like professional fly fishers and guides all the time.
Yep.
Don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to fly fishing. I've tried my best in the backyard.
Yeah.
But
we're gonna get there.
Yes, we'll do a follow-up video in 3 years and see where I'm at.
There we go.
And hopefully it'll be hopefully I got that double
I think
haul down.
you need a year, not even a year.
Okay.
We're gonna reconvene in a year.
All right, I'm gonna get to work. I promise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's hard to balance fishing with photography, and even if like you're really in love with fishing and you're not willing to completely miss out on it, like take an hour, be with your camera, hold the camera, track the lines through the water, like focus on the photography, because it takes hours and hours and hours to get maybe one shot. Yeah.
No, I definitely, like, some of my really good friends out fish, like we've had opportunities where it's like, we'll hook a fish and then there's another one sitting there, grab the other rod, I'm holding the camera, I'm like, no, I can't, I'm getting this on film.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Or like the other thing that I've gotten most of my really good friends to slow down, but some of them, like, you'll be like, all right, like, you'll swing around with the camera to like get some footage or some photos of the fish, and you'll be like, dude, where's the fish? He's like, oh, I let it go. Like, this is why we don't have photos at the end of the day.
Yeah. Anyone who goes fishing with me knows that you have to play with the fish a little bit. You have to get it to my buddy Jack is always yelling, breach, to try to get those shots of the redfish like launching up out of the water. So it's good to...
Yeah, definitely there's a balance there. And I mean, and the other thing too is, like, you just got to realize, like, if it's going to take time and you're going to miss opportunities. One of the things though that, like, I've started doing is like when I'm doing like bigger shoots or something, where we got to like focus for a minute, and we'll focus really hard, make sure we get what we wanted to get before we let the fish go. And then a lot of times we'll sit there on like for like 10-15 minutes, eat a sandwich, drink a beer. And like, I think that's something that before I started doing it, I didn't realize how much I really just appreciated being on the water and just taking that time to like slow down, take a break. Like, I really appreciate, like, that the photography and the videography has like forced me to like slow everything down to where it's not like so rapid, like, oh, we gotta catch another, It's like, it's like today, like we put one fish in the boat, and it's not like, I mean, that's still a good day. Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh, well, we didn't go out there and there's a boat driving by. It's not like we didn't go out there and crush it on 10 fish, but, we went out there, we caught a fish, we enjoyed the day. We saw some beautiful water today for sure. Mm-hmm. So I think, like, you know, if you want to get into taking like better fishing photos, like, you know, don't be afraid to take the time, and, you know, you might start realizing, wow, you know, I just really appreciate being out here. And, you know, those photos you're going to get when you start looking back at them, you know, a lot of times I don't really sit there, like when I'm looking through my photos, I don't sit there and I don't think about so much of like, oh, this fish did that and that was awesome and that was cool. A lot of times it's like, man, I really enjoyed that 10-minute break where I got to, you know, bullshit with my friends and drink a beer, and the water was slick calm and it was hot and it was just a beautiful day on the water, and we just, you know, got to have that moment.
Yeah, I think it's made me realize like how beautiful the fly fishing culture is.
Yeah. And
I try to be a part of it as much as possible, and I've found it through photography.
Yeah.
And you know, I've tried fly fishing. I've been exposed to fly fishing, but the thrill of getting the shot, has almost always outweighed like the joy of landing the fish. Like, I get so pumped when someone gets a redfish and we can like play with it as it's coming into the boat and they release it, and we just can like admire the beauty of these creatures. Like, there's nothing better.
No, it's definitely pretty awesome. All right, so I do want to circle back a little bit to like starting out camera gear. Like, what camera should you get? Personally, like when people ask me this, like we get into a conversation about it, I'll tell you right now, like, the phones out today are amazing.
Yeah.
They don't really give you a lot of diversity. I mean, there are pro options, but they're such a pain in the butt to try to figure out how to do it on a phone. So like what I would say is like, just, you know, start taking the time like we were just talking about with your phone. And if you're going through your phone photos, you're like, man, I really want to try to get this shot or that shot. I tell people to look at kit cameras. 100%.
Canon Rebel.
I used a Canon Rebel T3i. God, how long did I have that thing? I think I had that thing for like 7 or 8 years. Like when I went to go, like when I was talking to somebody about, oh, I got a Canon Rebel T3i, they're like, where did you get that? I was like, I've had it for a while. And they're like, you know what number they're on now? I'm like, no. I still don't.
I don't either. I have one sitting in my office and still boxed up if anybody wants to make an offer.
No, they're not, I'm not going to tell you like you're going to go out and you're going to pull off a, you know, big brand photo shoot, though I think you could. I honestly think you could go do a big brand photo shoot with the kit lens, and nobody would be able to tell.
And you can buy like 50 millimeter portrait lenses for dirt cheap.
So, yeah.
And like that's what I started on, and you can get a really blurry background. They look amazing. It looks so artistic. I don't think that it's easy for us to say like it's not about the gear when we have so much gear.
I should film an episode of the Rough Log with that Canon. I don't know if I have the battery still. That would be interesting. Definitely couldn't do it, and like that camera cannot handle low light at all. No,
it might catch on fire after recording for 20 minutes, but yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but I am team Canon.
Yeah,
I know it's a sore spot for a lot of people, and when people DM me about choosing Canon over Sony, I just say, you know, I'm too cheap to sell all my lenses and switch over.
That would be the thing, though. Like what I would say is start with a kit lens, and then probably like unless you're taking photos every day, which I highly recommend because I think it's an exercise of practice. But like start with a kit lens or a kit camera with the kit lenses, and then when you want to start looking at getting better and better photos, the first thing you need to do is learn how to shoot manual. And or even even if you start shooting like aperture priority, you know, that's a good way to start getting that. At least limits like where you can focus on your aperture. But once you like really get into shooting manual a lot, and you're like, all right, what's the next step? that's when I would say, like, I can't speak to Canon, I can only speak to Sony, but like a Sony kit lens can take the same, or Sony kit camera can take the same exact lenses that their A7 series can take. So if you're using like a Sony kit camera, I would say the next thing, once you got manual down, is start investing in better glass. And that's going to allow you the ability to start messing with lower f-stops.
Yeah.
You'll still be limited a little bit with what the camera can do on an ISO level, but like right now, like I almost looked at picking up like a Sony kit camera as a second body, just because I was like, dude, this can do like 80% of what I need a camera to do.
Yeah, if you're needing a camera for fishing and you're just going to be like in full light, like full sun, it's the brightest it will be all day. Like,
you don't even need to worry about that.
The kit camera is just fine.
Oh yeah. And then like I said, like I was saying, like learn manual, start investing in better glass, and then once you start working through like where you're starting to work in some of those tougher conditions because you want those shots, that's when it's time to start looking at spending some money on a camera body.
Yeah, it always feels a little bit better investing in things like that when you know that you'll get a return on that investment.
Yeah.
Either by selling art or booking photo shoots. But yeah, at the beginning, keep it simple.
Yeah, definitely keep it simple. There's a lot of photography tricks and tips and stuff that you need to learn before you need to go, all right, I got to go out and buy a $10,000 camera setup. because a lot of it too, like I think, a lot of it, you start looking at those higher end models, and if you're not really 100% sure what you're going to do, like it can be a little overwhelming, or a lot overwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, I have been using DSLRs since I started, and if I put the camera on automatic mode even, it takes a horrible picture. Like I can't take pictures on anything other than manual. It just ends up messing it up. And even when you're taking pictures on manual, 9 out of 10 photos are out of focus when I'm taking pictures of fish. Like, it's a mess.
Those things don't sit still very well, though.
No.
In your defense.
Yeah, and I kind of beg them to move around and be crazy, so it's not their fault.
What would you say for like someone that, maybe they've been taking photos for a little while and they want to start getting a little better at editing? Like what would you say are some good resources, something they should look into?
When I was learning editing, I used this site called lynda.com, but I think LinkedIn acquired it. But it was, a ton of videos on how to rate photos and, go through, like, choosing the images you want to edit, making those basic first pass edits and going from there. So, I mean, I haven't really done much on YouTube, but you can.
That's all I did. 100%.
Totally
That was me. It was YouTube. YouTube, and then nope, I can't remember. There was a site that I used that like had like basically like free master classes. I can't think of the name right now. If I figure it out, I'll put it down in the show notes down below for you guys to check out. But they basically like would sit down and like have a professional photographer be like, if you're going to go shoot street photography, this is like how you should do it. And so like, which again, I think, from like we were saying, well-rounded. So, I mean, that's why I was learning how to do street photography, because like where I was working, we were tied to the dock. So I'd go out in town and just try to shoot a bunch of street photography.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking one thing that I've started doing almost, I think, just to bring some joy back into the editing process so it doesn't feel like work so much, is I will revisit shoots from 5-6 months ago, if not a year ago, and see how I edit the picture differently now than I did when I
And like do a compare and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so the first time I started taking pictures of fish was December 2020, I want to say. And I had a little bit of experience up in Montana taking pictures of cutthroat trout flopping around, and they were so small, and I was surprised I could even get focus on them. But that was like the first time I realized, oh, like this is really fun, and I almost like this far more than trying to land these little trout. So I took it to the Laguna Madre. I tried the same technique. I'd follow the line through the water and wait for the fish to come. When the fish got the fly, I would try to track the wake as best as I could. And then as soon as the fish came on top of the water, just
hopefully
snapping
does something cool.
So many pictures, refocusing every second. It feels like I have to refocus because they move so fast.
You using manual focus?
Oh, no way.
Okay. I was gonna say.
No way. No way. And I think that's the funny thing about professional photographers. You would think, oh, this shot is so advanced. Like, it's got to be manual. No. Invest in a really good autofocusing system and
good lenses.
Yes. Yeah, really fast lenses as well.
Yeah. And those, for those of you that are listening, when Mac says really fast lenses, that's a low. When you're looking at a lens, that's one that has like a lower f-stop. So then the f, you'll see it if you're looking at a packaging, you'll normally see like the maker, and then then it'll say like the millimeter. So whether it's a prime or it's a, what is this called, zoom lens. Mm-hmm. You'll see that, and then underneath it is typically something. It'll be like a F with a little slash and then a number, and the lower that number is, the faster that lens is. Mm-hmm. Which is weird because the lower that number is, the more open your aperture actually. Yeah. Which that was one of those like. This is one of those like, you're trying to learn long division, like
it
carry the one. Inverse, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I like to call it the kiddie pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's shallow depth of field, like a kiddie pool. No? Okay. Yeah, but...
I might try to... No, I don't know if that one's going to stick.
Yeah, well, okay. We have a low f-stop, 2.8.
Yeah.
It gives you shallow depth of field. Kiddie pool. Okay, what's on the other end of the pool? It is the deep end, and that's where we have our like F22, because that's deep depth of field. Everyone just paused the podcast
that's
right
the
here.
End of
And this girl obviously doesn't know what she's talking about.
No, I mean, it makes sense. Just never would have thought of that analogy.
Let me get my whiteboard. I'll draw it out for you.
Just use the side of the van.
Yeah,
just put some art on the side of the van.
Yeah.
See, one more step towards Mac's van.
Mac's van. It sounds nice. What were we talking about?
Yes, we got way in the weeds on that one. I want to talk a little bit about being a woman in the outdoor industry. And so one of the things with my day job is I work with a lot of scientists, which has been a predominantly male dominated field for forever and a day. I think at one point, this is probably like hundreds of years ago, like women weren't even allowed to think about science, and my wife is a professor. She's a doctor. She's a scientist, and working alongside her and a lot of the women that she works with, I can tell you that like, obviously firsthand experience I don't have, but I can tell you like listening to the stories they tell about trying to deal with that being a woman in a typically male-dominated space. It's, I don't want to say it. What I want to say is that I am really excited for the scientific community, because the women that I get to work with are some of the most intelligent people that I've been able to work with, and they honestly, at least this is, like I said, I can really only speak a lot towards the scientific community, but their propensity for wanting to work together to meet an end goal and just set everything aside and focus on solving issues brings me like so much hope. And like, just because like I've watched so many like male scientists where you're like, hey, you can't do that, and they're like, no, we can do that, and like, and like, it's like stuff that they want to do stuff that's like at the time like literally impossible, and like you go to like a female scientist and you're like, all right, we can't do that with the ship, and they're like, all right, well, what can we do? Let's get through this problem so we can solve it, so we can keep going, so we can get the results we need. And so I know like there's definitely got to be some challenges, and I don't know, like what has been your experience in that regard?
Yeah, I feel very fortunate to be entering the fishing industry when as I am right now.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a better time to be a female in any industry. Yeah. And the goal is that just keeps on getting better and better as we, as the years go along. Yeah. I grew up with a twin brother. Yeah. So I've always been really comfortable hanging out with guys. And honestly, when I started working in the fishing industry, I was met with far more support than pushback. Good. And we have a long way to go, but I would not be doing the work that I'm doing right now if I didn't have the support of like fellow ladies in the industry. But like there's so many guys that I've befriended and who've become mentors, and like I really would not be like in my career right now without the help of everyone. Yeah. You run into some situations where being more feminine in the industry can feel like maybe you don't belong as much, but that's mostly me getting in my own head about, going out on boats wearing lipstick and earrings and just, pink everything. And I think women in the fishing industry are so important because everything needs to be well-rounded, right? Yeah. And it's been so fun to connect with ladies on Instagram and have them say, oh my gosh, I just love the work you're doing with fish. Like, who would have thought? It's like so amazing. And even my friends who knew me in college, I used to be very like listen to indie alternative music, like love traveling the world. I was like a very different person, and now I'm constantly on boats taking pictures of fish with a bunch of guys. But I think it takes all kinds in the industry, and I think being able to show women like, hey, I'm friends with all these guys and they're supporting me, and you can wear obnoxious leggings, you can wear like bright colors, you can be feminine, and you can also work in the fishing industry. Yeah. You don't even necessarily have to cast well to work in the fishing industry.
Hey, you gotta fish.
Yes. Don't forget that. I need to not forget that. Yeah, I think my goal, one thing that pushes me forward in my career is knowing that the moves that I make and the strives that I make they'll only positively impact the ladies that are coming after me.
Yeah.
But, I'm a year into the career.
Yeah.
It's 2022. Things are really amazing for women. They could definitely improve.
Yeah.
There is work to be done. But I feel really fortunate, and I think if we can continue to build community and work with men in the industry, like together, I think that's where you're going to see big change.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I always felt like when I first stepped foot into the fly fishing community, and you can tell me if this was the same for you or not, but when I first really stepped foot and really dived deep and started trying to meet people and go fishing with people, like, I never met a group of people that are just like, like they'll see like you have a fly rod in the back of your truck and they'll be like, "Oh, you got a fly rod? You want to go fishing tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Sure." Like, and it's just something that I think it correlates a little bit because the fly fishing community, like all of us, we love what we're doing and we want to share it with everybody, and we don't care, who you are. If you want to try it and you want to come out, we're going to throw you on the boat.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we just want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it's all about. I've had Jesse of Backwater Fly Fishing.
Yeah.
He's out of Florida, and his buddy Court, they reached out to me when I was just getting into fly fishing photography. They didn't even know if I fished. They knew nothing about me, and they were like, "Hey, we're coming through Texas. You want to fish together?" And we made it happen. And it was like the time of my life.
Did that look? I was looking. Like, I saw all those photos that you guys have all posted from that. I was like, man, that looked like a fun trip.
It was so good. It was so good.
No, I'll tell you right now. I'm not really good at measuring fish, but two of my best redfish that I've caught here in Texas, my wife pulled me onto both of them. Yeah.
Girl power.
Yeah. No, she. I can tell you right now. Like we talked a little bit. I want to get her on the boat more and more. But, she has no issues pulling that boat. I need to spend more time with her with a fly rod. That's all probably more my own fault than anything. But yeah, definitely like, I don't know, two of my best fish. I think that was pretty awesome. Like, and yeah, I mean, I know for me, like, I don't care at all. Like, if you hit me up and I can pull it off, like, I'm going to try to go fishing with you, because every time I fish with anybody, I learn from them. It doesn't matter who they are. I think everyone brings a different perspective. Everybody, I mean, it's the same thing like with photography. When we were talking about try to grow a group of good photography friends, everyone brings a new perspective. Everybody brings new ideas, and I really do enjoy that though about the fly fishing community, that everybody's like, "You want to go fishing?"
Yeah.
I'm free on Thursday. All right, I'll take off work. We'll go.
I know the amount of like crazy, like, "Oh, you want me to get on a plane and come fishing with you?" Sure. Have we talked in person? No.
Oh, it's. I was joking with one of my good friends, Carter. We were joking about, like, growing up, our parents were like, "Don't talk to strangers on the internet." I'm like, man, if I didn't talk to strangers on the internet, like, there goes 90% of the people I fish with.
I love it.
I mean, actually, even like Zach, who's been on this show a bunch, met him through Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Some say that the closest friendships you can make are on the gram. At least fishing related. Yeah. I found lots of luck in the fishing realm.
Yeah. What, like, is there anything that, like, that you want to, like, say to women or anyone that's like kind of, you're shivering too.
I know. I'm so cold.
Is there anything that you'd want to say like to women or really anyone like that wants to pursue a career in just honestly outdoor photography or even fly fishing or just fishing, anything in the outdoors?
Mm-hmm. Put in the hours. I think that it takes, isn't there a thing that says it takes like 10,000 hours to become a pro at something?
Big believer in the 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah, and I believe that to a T because I've dedicated most of my adult life to photography, and that was the thing that I loved doing growing up. Now, if I could just get the 10,000 hours in on the fishing, I would be like set, you know. But if you love it, it doesn't feel like work and it doesn't feel like wasted time at all. So get your hours in. Constantly be pursuing, I wouldn't say perfection because that's not possible, but be pursuing growth.
Yeah.
And like get like, I like to say, and I've heard this before, what's your favorite photograph? The one I'm taking tomorrow.
No, you know what? Honestly, like, I did a podcast with Blackwell, and that's one of the things that he kind of spoke to was like being your best critic, worst critic. I don't know which one works better there, but also like be willing to take criticism. If you're going to get into any kind of art form, I mean, which I kind of in a romantic way think of fly fishing as an art form, but be willing to take criticism. Like I asked you earlier on the boat, like you said you'd been listening to one of the podcasts, and I was like, you know, what was wrong with it? Because
sit down. I have my list.
Because, you know, you ask somebody like, oh, I took this photo, what do you think? And they're like, yeah, it looks great. And you're like, that's thanks.
That
doesn't help. I mean, I appreciate the support. Little thumbs up.
I know. Yeah. And it's like you don't want to hear the heartbreaking thing, but that's necessary for growth.
Yeah. No, I always appreciate it when I kind of get anybody that's like, fix your audio. I'm like, guys, I'm working on it. All right. Microphones don't grow on trees, and neither does money.
It's true. Both of those things are facts. Yeah.
All right. Guys, we are both very cold. Outdoor podcasts in the winter in Texas, you know, like you would think that might work.
Yeah, it seems really practical.
It's cold.
They can't actually hear anything we're saying because our teeth are chattering.
If you guys should definitely check out Mac's Instagram, and I'll leave a link down below. And your website is
MacElliottMedia.com.
And I'm going to leave a link down below for that. And if you've got a brand or you do daily, you'll go do daily shoots with people. So like if you want to hire Mac to come shoot a day of fishing with you, hit her up, talk to her. Don't be afraid to put her on the bow. She can handle it. And if you guys haven't already, please hit like, hit subscribe. If you're listening on Apple or Google or Podbean or any of the, it's a real thing, or any of the other podcasting hosting sites, please leave a review. Definitely helps us out. Mac, thank you so much for meeting me down here, spending some time on the water and sitting down afterwards coldly talking about camera gear. I hope you guys learned some stuff. I hope that it helps you guys in the future. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.